Hello, it's Nadia from She Builds Again, and I am coming to you during child nap time because that's just the kind of day that we're having here. And so I really wanted to show up and be present, and hopefully you can hear me. We had a sick baby last night, so I got very little sleep, but I'm showing up and I want to share this topic, which I think is really, really exciting. And it's really about just 3 mindset shifts that I feel that anyone who's relocating really does need to make before the move. And so the reality is that if you make the move with the wrong mindset, with the wrong way of thinking, I think it's very easy to fall back into the patterns that led you to be uncomfortable, led you to be unhappy, led you to be just unfulfilled in your previous hometown location, wherever you were. And so the reality is that when you're setting up in a new country, it's so important to just have the right mindset, the right way of thinking, so that you can really thrive in your new environment. So if you don't know me, I'm Nadia, and I was 35 years old when I moved with my family, my husband, our 3-year-old son, to Bali, Indonesia. Since then, we also welcomed a little girl into the world, and so we're now a family of 4, and we've been living here for 3.5 years. And so when I sat down and I thought of some of the mindset shifts that you have to make before you relocate, before you make a move, one of the things that really came up top of mind is that you have to realize that nowhere in this beautiful earth is perfect. There are going to be pros and cons to every single place that you move. And so one place might have a great community, but it might not have the best infrastructure. Maybe it doesn't have a stable political system or government. Maybe it doesn't have, maybe the opportunities for career growth aren't there. There are so many factors to consider when you're thinking about a move overseas, and it can really be overwhelming, to be honest. But I think that the reality is that you have to know yourself. I would even say do an exercise, go a step further, and really list down what are your key values when you think of a place that you're moving to. And I think that if you're able to do this step and write down maybe 5 key values, whether it's freedom, whether it's peace, whether it's, I don't know what it is for you, but just write down the value words that come to mind. And so once you get clear on that, I think picking a location and a part of the world where you can really go and thrive will be so much easier. And so with that said, there is a book that I read when I was in university, and it actually is one of my favorite books. And it's called Eat, Pray, Love. And it's probably one of the reasons why I'm in Bali right now. And so the author, Elizabeth Gilbert, she obviously goes through this really challenging, heart-rending divorce, and she doesn't know who she is anymore. And in order to find herself, she decides to go traveling. And so she starts her travels in Italy, where she eats lots of good food. And then she goes to India, where she prays and learns about meditation. And then in the last part of the book, she goes to Bali, where she opens her heart up to find love again. And so this book obviously was really, really popular. It went on to be a movie. But the thing that I really remember and that stuck with me from this book is this part where the author says that every place, every single country has a word, a spirit, an essence. And you have to find a country that has the same essence, like it matches with who you are in this season, who you are in this chapter. And so, for instance, I truly believe that Bali's essence and word is healing or peace. And so that's why in this season, I've changed so much. I've really struggled with being able to hustle, and I'm just not as interested in doing all the things that I used to do because I want to rest. I want to have a sense of peace. And I've really done a lot of inner work in this season to heal from things that were holding me back from just enjoying my life for so long. And so I had to really dig deep and figure out first of all, the pain and feel and sit in those emotions, but then I also had to find ways and skills to get out of those emotions so that I wasn't stuck. And so I think that's why it's not been perfect here, not in the least, but I've really been able to appreciate this season that I'm in. And it may not last forever. It may not last, I have no idea what tomorrow will bring. But I know that in this season and the chapter that we've been here, that I've been able to actually embrace the words and the essence of this place, because I needed that. I needed healing. I had so many just struggles back home, from the death of my dad when I was 25 years old till just challenges that we've dealt with as a married couple and as a family. And so I really had to take the time away from the environment that I feel was constantly reminding me and triggering that pain, and go into a new environment where I was able to really look at myself clearly, figure out what I wanted, and figure out how to move forward. And so that is thankfully what I've been blessed with in this season. The second mindset shift that I really feel like you need if you are going to be relocating is you need to accept that life is gonna keep lifing. And this is actually a saying from a friend of mine named Rose, who is a woman, a lovely lady that I met through a group called Black in Bali. And they have lots of events, and they have parties, and they have dinners, and they have like family little small meetups that you can arrange. But this is something that Rose said, and she's been here in Bali for many years, maybe 10, maybe 15, I don't know, but definitely way longer than me. And so I just remember she said, life is going to keep lifing. And it's true. Yes, you're in paradise. Yes, you're in a beautiful place. Yes, the cost of living is a lot lower than in other places of the world. You can afford, groceries, there's less stress around certain things, but life is still life. Like, there's going to be challenges. You're going to go through hard times. You're going to fight with your spouse. You're going to, just go through difficulties. You're going to maybe deal with job loss, or maybe a source of your income gets removed, or there's just so many challenges that you can, especially if you are a mom, if you have kids, their challenges are like your challenges, because you just care so much about them that you take them on and you wear them and you're trying to figure out solutions for them, even though that's probably not the best thing. But that's definitely how I've operated. And every time my son has a challenge, I want to try to figure out how we can help him and support him to get through that. And so life is gonna keep going no matter where you are in the world. And so just pick, like I said, the environment that speaks to you in this season, in this chapter. Maybe understand that it might not be forever, but in this chapter, this is what works best for you and your family. And life will keep going on. You will still have highs, you will still have lows. That is just the nature of this world that we live in. And so it's interesting, because in the news right now, there's so much talk about Iran, and Dubai was actually one of the places that me and my husband have been talking about as maybe an option for where we could go in the future. And now we're like, what? Like, that's kind of scary to have to go through. A lot of people are sheltering in place. It's almost like COVID, and we don't know how long it's going to last. We're hoping it's only like, a couple weeks, but we have no idea what the future holds, right? Especially when it comes to all these like international geopolitical issues. But I've been reading some people's messages on Instagram. Some people that I follow have like email newsletters, and they sent something out just saying they're okay, everything's okay. They're actually, even though they're in the midst of this crazy situation that they never expected, they still feel like they completely trust the government and the government's ability to keep them safe, and they still feel safe. So some of them have said that. And so, yeah, life is going to keep going. You cannot predict the future. We don't have full control over what happens in this life. And so just when you're making that shift from one country or one environment that maybe is not matching your chapter that you're in, maybe you just feel like it's misaligned. Maybe it's a country like New York, or not country, a state, a state like New York, or a country like America, where there's just a sense of hustle culture, and you just don't feel like that aligns with the season that you're in. Maybe you're a mom, maybe you're focused on your family. There's so many different things that you have to consider, but just know who you are, know your values, and what matters most to you. I would say think of at least 5, like I mentioned before. And so the last thing, I feel like all of these kind of lead into each other, but the last thing, the last mindset shift that I think is so, so necessary is that you have to realize that you can do hard things. Even when those challenges arise, you have the ability, you have to learn to trust yourself, you have to learn to trust God, that you can navigate whatever is coming your way, even if you have to change course a little bit or change your plan a little bit or figure out a different way of working or a different type of work. You have the ability and the skills as a human being to pivot and to course correct. And I think that's just how we can empower ourselves, that even when things are scary or even when there's a challenge that comes up, because no place is perfect, nowhere is perfect, nothing in this life is perfect, that you can pivot, you can figure out a next step forward. And so I wanted to share just some information on what a growth mindset is. And so I learned about this first when I was in an entrepreneur program in Bermuda, because I have run my own business since 2016. I run a small boutique communications and PR company. And basically, while I was doing consulting, because I'm not doing that much consulting anymore, but in my heyday when I was doing a lot of consulting, I was part of this entrepreneur program that helped you to learn about how to price your products and services and how to build and grow and how to, grow a team. And there's so many different aspects of becoming an entrepreneur that it just stretches you and pulls you, which is amazing, but also very challenging. And so anyways, I learned during that program about something called a growth mindset. And so I'm going to read what it is. A growth mindset is the belief that our intelligence, our skills, our abilities can be developed through hard work, through perseverance, through learning from your mistakes. And this is the opposite from a fixed mindset, which is where we believe that our abilities are innate and unchangeable, and we actually start to see failure as a limitation. And so with the growth mindset, you start to realize that if you failed at something in your business, so for instance, you tested a product and it didn't work out, it's actually just research and it's actually just evidence. And with that information, you can then make a change. You can maybe pivot things. You can try a different product, or you can try to tailor that product so that it better fits your target audience. There's so many different ways that we can shift things, change things. And I think it's just such a powerful way to not just go about business, but to go about life. Because sometimes we can get into this state of mind where we're just like, this is just how I am. I'm not going to change. If you don't like it, then leave me alone. If you don't like how I am, then go about your way, kind of thing. But that doesn't actually allow us to look in the mirror and realize some of our weaknesses and challenge ourselves to do better and to grow, right? We get stuck in this attitude that I'm just this way and I can't get better and it won't get better. And so I take it or leave it kind of thing. Whereas we actually have brains that are so incredibly powerful. And if we practice things, if it's the right thing, if you care about it, if you're consistent, then you can definitely get better over time. And so these are the 3 mindset shifts that I really feel like if you start to adapt now, wherever you are, before you make the move, it'll really help you when you actually get to your new destination. It'll help to maybe tailor your expectations so you're not expecting that things are just going to be like happily ever after. I think that's the biggest myth, right? That you finally, have this plan and you save all this money and you get the visa and you find the right school for your kids and you leave. And yes, that takes a lot of work. It can take years. It can take 6 months, a year, 2 years. But when you get to your new destination, life is going to keep going, and it's not just happily ever after. It's not just a fairy tale. It's still going to be ups and downs and challenges and things to learn and ways to grow. After all, I really do believe that the purpose of this life is for us to grow as much as possible. And so I personally believe that we're going to be learning lessons up until the day that we die, the day that, we go on to heaven or wherever, right? So I think these mindset shifts are so important. And if you start to really grasp them, if you start to journal, meditate on them, and start to really get clear on who you are, what you value, and make, like I said, that checklist of those 5 top values, I really do believe that it will help you to settle into your new destination and have the right perspective when you're looking at some of the challenges that you're going to come up against when you do relocate. So before I round out this episode, I wanted to just answer a couple little questions. But how did I have to redefine success, comfort, and stability? Oh my gosh, this is a really good one. I have really had to be true to myself in this season. And it is very hard to let go of old ways of thinking, old patterns that used to serve me. And so one of them that comes up is that Bermuda, where we're from originally, is a country where there's almost like this starving artist mentality. If you choose a career that is creative or that is not in the corporate world, like actuary, law, accountant, then there's this stigma that you're going to be a starving artist. And this is a mindset belief and a mindset block that has stuck with me through so many aspects of my life, because I was like, if I don't do the smart thing, then I'm not going to make any money. If I don't tap into the corporate world, then I won't have clients. And I'm starting to, in this season, to accept that there are different ways of doing things. And the great thing about living in this part of the world specifically is that there's so many examples of people that are actually doing creative careers. They're content creators, they have digital products, they have coaching programs and services, and they're actually thriving. And so this is something that I am continuing to just work on, because once it's ingrained, it's really hard to break free from those kind of limiting beliefs. But I'm trying to trust myself. I'm trying to trust myself that if I continue to show up and do the work, then I will continue to connect with the right people and build the right community that serves not just me, but serves all of us. And so that's what I'm really, really excited about. And it's also something that's challenging me in this current season. And so, yeah, I'm definitely redefining what I think about success, what I think about my path forward in terms of my career. That was something that was so necessary. And yeah, I'm just excited about how I can continue to grow and to see what God has for me in the future. And last question before I round out this video is, what mindset shift helped me to stay grounded when things felt hard? I've spoke in the past about some of the challenges that we've had since we relocated to Southeast Asia, since we moved to Bali. We've had, even just the birth of our daughter was really tough, trying to navigate like getting her passport in a different country with different paperwork and a different language. That's been hard. And there's literally, I would say, it's been consistently hard over the last 2 years. The first year was like vacation. And then the last 2 years, we've just been realizing that there's a lot of things that are changing about life here. There's a lot of laws that are changing, a lot of visa regulations that are changing, and you have to stay abreast of all of that. And so when things are getting hard and a little bit stressful, I would say that one thing that is really keeping me grounded is my faith in God. And so I know I harp on about this in so many videos, but it is really something that I had to come to the end of myself because of so many challenges that we were coming up against. And maybe they're not big challenges, but they were still always on my mind. They were keeping me up at night. It was little things like, leaks in our house. We had a villa in Canggu at one point, and, there were leaks and mold issues. And, really didn't feel comfortable living there anymore, but we had already made the investment for a full year. And so there's just all these little things that come up, all these little challenges. And I really do believe that last year was like that year of the snake, all of the loss, all of the shedding that had to happen or in order for you to step into a year that you can actually have momentum because you don't have the weight on you as much. And so I think that every single thing that happened last year has led me to a place where I am realizing that I need God. I need God in every season of my life. I need God in every chapter of my life. I need God whether I live in Bermuda, whether I live in Mexico, whether I live in Dubai, whether I live in Bali. I need God. I need a relationship with God. I need a thriving community so that I'm not alone in my walk with God. And I need to keep listening for his voice. I need to keep sharing what's on my heart with him because he does care. And I think sometimes it's hard to hear, at least in my life. I feel like things are so busy, life gets so hectic, and it can be hard to hear what God wants you to do. Like, do I turn left? Do I turn right? But just trusting that the compass is more so peace and inner peace. If you feel like confusion or conflict, then something's not right in that. And so it's not always like this clear, audible direction or next step that you know, but just taking the small step at a time and listening to your gut, listening to your intuition, listening to, do I feel peace about this? And so that's definitely been my rock in this season of just so much happening and us loving life here, but also coming up with the regular everyday ups and downs and challenges that just happen in life as an adult with kids and a husband. And so I hope that you like this video. If you are not yet subscribed, I really hope that you'll subscribe to this channel. I'm constantly sharing about my journey relocating from Bermuda to Bali with my husband, and we have 2 kids, and just navigating all of the ups and downs. And I try my hardest to make sure that it's a realistic portrait of relocation life so that you don't have these grand ideas that life is just going to be perfect, because it won't be. But you can overcome any challenge that comes your way, and you can definitely enjoy more peace, more happiness, more health, more fulfillment, and just becoming the next version of yourself, which is something that I'm so grateful for, that I can learn from my past, but also step into what I believe is the next chapter for me, my life, and my family. And so, like I said, subscribe to this channel. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and leave a comment below. Let me know if there's any questions that you have about relocating as a family, and I'd love to answer in another video coming up soon. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. Talk to you soon.